La población mundial está creciendo. Existe una creciente demanda por alimentos de alta calidad, sabrosos, saludables y cuidando el bienestar animal. Esto brinda la oportunidad a algunos países para abastecer al mercado mundial. Argentina es uno de ellos, ya que tiene un clima favorable y abundantes recursos naturales. La agricultura representa un sector importante y es un pilar indispensable para el progreso social y la prosperidad económica. Sus exportaciones agrícolas generan el 60% de los ingresos extranjeros del país. La industria porcina argentina ha crecido rápidamente. Desde 2010, tanto el consumo como la producción de carne porcina han aumentado más del 150%, una de las cifras más altas en todo el mundo. Están dadas las circunstancias para que la Argentina optimice la cadena porcina y aproveche las oportunidades del mercado mundial. Los Países Bajos pueden colaborar a lograrlo. Para satisfacer los mercados de alta exigencia, la cadena porcina debe garantizar productos sostenibles y seguros, protegiendo el bienestar animal. Los Países Bajos son reconocidos por sus conocimientos avanzados y por su experiencia en toda la cadena de valor en la industria porcina. Desde la genética, la nutrición, el alojamiento, los sistemas de control, la gestión agrícola, el tratamiento de efluentes, hasta el procesamiento de la carne y la cadena de frío. Todo ello adaptable a las circunstancias locales. Mediante el intercambio de conocimientos, la capacitación y la tecnología, ofrecemos a la industria porcina herramientas para hacer crecer su negocio y mejorar su calidad de vida. Trabajando en conjunto entre los gobiernos, las empresas y las instituciones educativas, podemos inspirarnos mutuamente y al mundo entero a desarrollar una cadena porcina integrada, eficiente y sostenible. Resolviendo juntos los desafíos globales.
Hola y bienvenidos a este webinar. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, and welcome to this special webinar devoted to the theme of data management and sustainability. Data management and sustainability, yes, they have a lot in common. Both topics are connected closely. Things, after all, you can measure, that is something you can prove, and you can also benchmark that, and that will help to do your job better and more efficiently. And yes, in the end, that means more sustainable work. But more about that later. The webinar now is organized by Gita Porcino, the Grupo de Intercambio Tecnológico Argentino-Holandés. In good English, a cluster of 11 Dutch companies working together with stakeholders in Argentina to optimize the local pig supply chain in Argentina. This is the sixth of 6 webinars in which practical pig issues and practical solutions are being discussed in the swine industry, and that runs from breeding to slaughter. And this 6th webinar, as said, will be dealing with data management as well as sustainability. And the total package of all these 6 webinars is devoted to reaching out at pork producers in Argentina in the surrounding industries. We are broadcasting from The Hague in the Netherlands, and my name is Vincent Terbeek. I'm editor for Pig Progress, which is a global international swine title, proudly supporting this initiative, and I shall be your host for the next hour. And this webinar I will not do on my own. As you can see here at the table, I am joined by Harjan Westerman of NADAP, as well as Peter ter Linde of Leo, and we are joined at a distance today by Francisco Tascon of Agrovision. The first 2 speakers will each address the audience for roughly 10 minutes, and the third speaker will have a presentation of roughly 5 minutes. And after these sessions, there will be a 15 to 20 minute round table discussion with all of us. As this webinar is aimed at the Argentinian market, yet our speakers are international, we will speak in English, yet everything will be subtitled in Spanish, and all the presentations will also be in Spanish, as you'll see. Let us turn to the first speaker. On my left, that is Harjan Westerman, Sales Account Manager, Pig Solutions at NADAP Livestock Management. And some of you may recognize him from a previous webinar. He has a Bachelor in Agricultural Business Administration and a Management Master of Science at Nyenrode Business University here in the Netherlands. And with us, he'll address the importance of data with regard to pork production. Floor is yours and welcome again.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for this kind introduction. Yes, today we are here together to talk about data and sustainability in data management. And I'm going to tell you something about the company that I work for, NEDAP, and the products that we produce and help you manage your herd in a more sustainable way by using the data. Well, as I explained before, NEDAP, our mission is to create technology for life. We do it in a lot of business units. We do it from retail to healthcare and also livestock management. And we have 7 business units in total. We exist already for over 90 years. We have 11 offices worldwide, and I have 700 colleagues working for NEDAP all around the world. First, I want to start with explaining how data, what position data management takes in your farm. How do you come from rough data, zeros and ones, into a decision-making process on your farm? So in the center you have the sow or the pig, whatsoever, and from the sow all kinds of data exist. The veterinarian has data from your pig, the genetic company has data, the feeding company, the slaughterhouse may even have slaughter data of your pig after slaughter. And of NEDAP, we tend to provide feed-in data and body conditioning data to this whole data pool. And if you add these zeros and ones into a big batch, you get data. So we are now only talking about the data of pig 1. So you have weight, feed intake, the protein levels which are supplied by your feeding company, etc., etc. You have all kinds of data of this pig. Now, when you start to calculate with this data, you design an algorithm. That's what we do at NEDAP. So we take the weight and we multiply it with feed intake. That's basically just setting up the sums. Now, if you calculate this, so the result of these sums, that is what we call information. So an example of an information point is feed conversion ratio. You can also get information on feed conversion as to protein intake. So this is what we call information. We're still talking about only one pig here. Now, as I told before, we're talking about the data of one pig. If you add group data to this, so if you add all the data, the information that we just talked about of pig 2 and pig 3 and pig 4 to this, you get group data. And if then you're going to see the data of pig 1 relative to the data of pig 2, you get the feed conversion ratio, for example, of pig 1 relative to the group. So then you can determine if a pig stands out or if he or she underperforms. Now, with this information, with this knowledge, if you add this human understanding, so you are in a company, you have certain goals. They might be technical, they might be economical, they might be sustainable goals. They're not in this sheet, but of course it's a well-known goal as well. If you add these goals to your knowledge that we talked before, you can determine whether this pig performs well based on your goals or if he or she does not perform well on your goals. And that's what we call wisdom, your operational day-to-day management. So that's basically on how you get from data into wisdom, or as we call it, operational management on your farm. Now, what we do at NEDAP is we provide a solution to find the ideal feed distribution and the feed intake of the pigs by determining the last meter. So, as you see on the slide, the feed is distributed to all pigs, but it's only distributed. We don't know how much actually the pig eats. We don't know how much is the body weight or the performance is actually influenced by this consumption of this feed. But that's what we call the last meter problem. We want to determine what happens after the feed leaves the feeding line and what the pig does with this intake. What happens there? Now, as I told you before, there are all kinds of data points to be mentioned. You have genetic characteristics of your pigs, you have feed characteristics, and you have, of course, the characteristics that we provide. And these are all combined into a management programs. And that's what we're going to call, my colleague beside me, Peter, is going to tell you something more about how this data is converted and what you can read from that. Now I'm going to explain something about the things that the products that we produce and how this can help you on your farm. So as I told before, I work for NEDAP Livestock Management. We have smart solutions for either pigs and cows, but today we're going to tell something about the pigs. So we provide solutions for the entire production cycle on all farms. You have systems that help you collect data from your genetics and your feed your feeding companies. These we call the performance tester. We have solutions for gestating sows and for lactating sows, but we also have solutions for gestating sows. And lastly, of course, we have our pork tuner, which helps you getting the perfect finisher pigs, perfectly tuned finisher pigs. Now, as you see on this sheet again, we see the products, the data that is provided by the pigs, put into our systems and collected into our data collection system. We have 3 propositions. We call them SoSense, ProSense, and PorkSense. And if you combine the system provided with the data collection system, we call this Smarter Systems by NEDAP. But if you interlink this data that we collect into data management systems, they will support your performance. And lastly, if you have the interaction with the customer about the data collection and data transitions that you do, we call it the supplying transparency for the entire production chain in pig producing land, country. So again, our 3 propositions, SoSense, PorkSense, and ProSense. And this is, again, how they look like in the production cycle. And let's look a little bit closer into the electronic sow feeding system for gestating sows. Now, before you see a barn that's equipped with an electronic sow feeding system, and you instantly can see large group of pigs. We can house up to 360 head sows into one group. So this means that they have all the time of the world to go on about socializing and relaxing all day. And if they are hungry, they go into the feeding stations where all the data will be collected. Feed will be distributed, data will be collected, the body weight will be collected, if she or she is in heat will be collected, and all kinds of data that you want to be collected is collected in here. Here you have an example of a farm equipped in Brazil. It's currently active right now. You see large group, large farm, a lot of space for the sow, and still with maintaining the possibility of collecting large amounts of data. Now, another example I want to look into is NEDAP Pork Tuner. So NEDAP Pork Tuner is, of course, for the finishing pigs, and in front on this slide you see an example of how the Pork Tuner works in a finishing house. So you see the Pork Tuner can house up to 600 head finishing barn. So again, the pigs have a very large area of relaxing and socializing and going about their daily business. And when they are hungry, they go into the Pork Tuner and they are selected on body weight to get the correct ration. And the Pork Tuner in the end helps you to select the pigs of a certain weight range that you determine you want the pigs to deliver to the slaughterhouse. And again, this is the dashboarding of the PorkSense. So you see all kinds of data. You see delivery forecasts on when to deliver the correct pigs. You also see growth curves. You see amount of visits. You see average daily growth of your pigs. So all can be managed. So how to use this data of the Pork Tuner still? How to use it for real-time insights. So we distinguish better feeding into 2 parts. We call it customized feeding and feeding to actually daily gain. I'm going to give a little example of this right now on how this data can actually help you in supporting the performance on your farm when using a Pork Tuner. So here's a curve of the feeding to actually daily gain. And we have an example here of pigs that are put from growth feed into finished feed. So a lower protein feed into a higher protein feed. Sorry, the other way around. From they are in a feeding ration with high proteins, and they move into a ration with lower proteins level. And you see, if they are 8 days too late, switching the finishers from this ration, they will lose about 100 grams average daily growth. So if you switch them too early, performance will go down and feed conversion rate will go up. And if you switch them too late, efficiency will go down and feed costs will go up. So we want to determine the perfect switching time. And this can be determined when using the pork tuner system. You can see when your pig is ready to be switched from ration, and then we see an average daily growth of the entire herd of 785. This is not 800, but still all the pigs are at least on this range, and that's a big gain. So if you put this into perspective, this is a herd of 550 head, approximately. It's 554 actually, but it's okay. You see that they will grow during this day 226 kilo more. That's what you win by switching them to the correct ration on the right time. That's the superior 50%. The lower 50% of growers will grow 189 kilos extra. So this is gained by switching the ration of the finisher pigs on the right time. Now, how do we do that? We determine the average body weight of your entire herd, and we assign them to either a high protein ration or a low protein ration. I'm going to explain how that works. So in here you see the weight distribution of your entire herd of finisher pigs, about 600 head. So the smallest, the lightest pig is 61 kilo, and the heaviest pig is 112 kilo, and the average weight of the pig is 89. So the heaviest pigs, they want about 4,200 kilocal per day of energy requirement, and the lightest only need 1,128 kilocal per day to grow properly. And overall, they need 1.5 million kilocal per day overall. So this is the total kilocal requirement for the entire herd. So if you see the superior 50%, they need 88,000 kilocal, and the lower 50% needs 64. So you see the delta is quite high, it's 37%. Now what our system does is basically what they determine the middle, they determine the average weight of the upper 50%, and they determine the average weight of the lower 50%, and they assign them to the correct feed so that you can have the best growth in your finisher barn. Now, what we do at NADAP is we put the pig centrally. And around that, we develop feeding systems that do all kinds of data collection systems. We expand it by our software systems, and that will help you as a farmer to determine the correct daily operations on your farm. If you add this up into genetic companies and to feed and meat processing companies and feeding companies, you will see that a huge ecosystem starts to get there about your pigs, and then you see that the optimal transparency can be determined for your pigs. Now, if you would like to know more about NADAP or about our propositions, please feel free to scan this QR code on the screen. This will get you right directly to my LinkedIn page. My email address and my phone number is also on here. And feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Harjan. Excellent presentation again. You already briefly mentioned on the fly that there were some projects in Brazil going on. I think it would be nice for our viewers in Argentina to know which kind of other operations, what kind of other successful projects you can mention in Latin America.
No, I cannot yet mention. There's something ongoing, some big projects, but they're still in the line, and we have to wait them out until they are actually get an effect.
Yeah,
so
I'm impressed. I want to know first. That's why. Okay, but in Brazil things are going on, and the business is developing there.
Yeah, indeed.
Excellent. We'll come back to you later with more questions. Let's go to your neighbor. Our regular viewers will recognize him. Peter ter Linde as CEO of precision livestock farming company Leo in the Netherlands. And that company is all about ear tagging, RFID technology, and being able to track every important development in an animal's life using an app. And he will pick up where Harjan left it and explain how NADAP and Leo can even reinforce each other's solutions and also combine data with sustainability. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And indeed, that's what I'm going to tell you. So very good. Again, my name is Peter ter Linde, CEO of Leo, and I'm all about to tell you what we as a company do. We are specialized in the individual traceability of pigs throughout their entire lifespan. So we start at the birth and we follow it all the way through to the slaughter, and use that information back inside the chain to optimize your process. We're talking about optimizing processes using data, but also how do we optimize your process and increase animal welfare in that sense with centralizing data. And we believe that giving insights of your performance and giving insights into the processes, it will actually do help you a lot with increasing the welfare and sustainability of the operations that you currently have. You see in the corner, every animal within our system receives a digital passport. The digital passport stores everything that is happening to the animal, and that changes ownership. The data changes ownership with the animal to the next phase in its life. And with providing that data to the next stages, you will increase on knowledge about the animals and also the decisions you have to make about how to feed, optimize, and stuff like that. And if I go to the next step here, you see how important centralizing is and how important the cooperation with companies like NeedApp is to provide us with that data. If we know individual feed intake for specific sows, we can actually use that information later on to determine the relationship between the performance of the offspring. Talking about animal welfare, if we feed the sow correctly and the offspring is of a higher quality but also a viability, the animal has simply a better, more healthy life. And that is actually what animal welfare in essence is all about. If you look at this from a chain, there's a lot of pigs on here. What we do start at the absolute top. So the nucleus herds within the larger integrators, they create their own genetics, and we individually collect those passport informations with that. So when that nucleus herd is being sold to the actual breeding herd, you can see we want to connect that data to the next step. From these breeding herds, the actual production animals are being performed, and that's where the consumer benefits from the actual products. By providing those claims further down the chain, you can actually see that you can claim certain products and completely trace them back to the heritage of the nucleus herds. And in that sense, you increase on the entire chain of production. So you start at the essential, the pure lines that you're having to optimize the performance of the product at the consumer side. So this is kind of what we want to have. A continuous learning operation. To be able to facilitate that, you need to enable. That means you need to register data. You need to collect data inside the barn, know what you're doing, know what you're working on. And with the data, create the awareness. So visualize what you're doing, talk to your people about it, and make them aware of the consequences of certain actions that you do. That's when you actually get into the learning part. And the learning part is that's where everything kind of comes together. That's why we see ourselves as being the central hub of information. IoT is called Internet of Things. That is information provided to us from third-party data collection machineries. NeedApp, a very good example. Add all this data together and you have your machine learning algorithms on top of that. You can actually draw conclusions from that. And implementing those conclusions means you're actually improving. And the improvement part, which is being regulated through this machine learning, we are going to a continuous learning operation, which is a different way of thinking when we used to go to just silos, your own part of your operation, you're handing over the product and you still stare at your own type of part. This is the part where we actually work together on improving. So what does that do? If you look at the, these are screenshots from our system where you can actually see performance. So what does all that connected data means? Well, if you look at, these are some SAO reports that we see from our system, and if the two blue lines, you can actually see how a customer can increase their productivity simply by looking at the data points. If you see, let's see the average wean per sow, you can literally see that climb on a quarter-to-quarter basis. Why is that? They can draw better conclusions and they have better ways to manage the herd. On the left side, you see a screenshot of our app, and you can see the orange two parts right now. You can see the relationship between the actual mother sow and the quality of the offspring. You could see that the mother sow did not eat as much at a specific phase before she actually was giving birth. And you can see on top of that the result of the actual birth weight is way less than it could have been. Another great example of information we get from NEDAP, and we extrapolate that to the quality of the offspring. So really good examples of how you can use data to not only optimize your production, but also make sure that the animals you do have in your farm are content animals who have high viability, because that keeps them eating happy and performing well. So what does that actually mean? That's nice, and data and visibility and all that stuff, but what do we gain from that? We've done a research within the entire database that we collected of certain customers with about 4 million individual animals that we tracked from birth all the way to slaughter. And we took two groups, one who use our system as a traceability system and one who use our system as a traceability and as a management system. And in that sense, you can see the actual gains that they get by looking at real individual data. The per pig value increase went up. The throughput was faster. Why is throughput faster? 18 days shorter on the barn than the other ones. By looking at age, instead of just weight, but the perfect combination between age and weight, you get this specific line, the perfect spot on where to let the animals go to slaughter. If they grow slow, and at some point you meet the maximum capacity you can get from a specific animal. Normally, if you would look at the animal and say, I'm going to keep this for a little bit longer, only data can tell you this is the time to let it go, because they're occupying space and eating feed without getting the ratio you want out of them. So those are extra parameters that you really want to get. So this is what we get by actually looking at individual data and extrapolate that to the actual performance outcome. So what does it look like then? Of course, you need to visualize something to see. So within the dashboarding that you can proprietary build specific dashboards for people to look at. Let's say I want to make a comparison between different genetics and want to see is there performance in different genetic lines within the way that we hold our pigs, and is there certain things that we can do to optimize, so to really dive into that data. Next step, of course, is comparison. If you own multiple farms, you want to see how is the technical performance between those specific farms, and why is there a difference, and what can we do to optimize that? Looking into the data, visualizing data is the best way of doing that, and that's what we in that sense provide here. So essentially, centralizing data. What does that mean? Producing more efficiently makes sense because of the visibility that you have. One of the best things to produce more efficiently is identifying the poor performing animals. That's one thing. Identifying is something you can easily do, but what is the cause of that? And to know the cause of that, you need to know exactly what have those animals be exposed to. And the exposure means you have to establish the links between those data points. You can only do that by centralizing your data. With that knowledge, you need to implement your treatment perspective. You need to say, what can we do to optimize it, and how can we measure that to see if we have the actual result that we want to have? So, and when we know the results and we know these KPIs, make them visible and make them measurable, and that's exactly what we stand for. Essentially, we can say you can only measure success if you measure your business, and with that way, we can all grow together.
Thank you very much, Peter. And just for all the viewers who have a Spanish language background, Leo is totally available in Spanish as well.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
So we've shown examples in English, but they needn't worry. Everything is available.
My Spanish is just bad, but the system knows a lot of Spanish. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good, very good. So that's straightened out. Let's move on to the third speaker, and for that we turn to Colombia again. To Latin America, we have a live connection with Francisco Tascon, sales manager for Agrovision in Latin America. He's a veterinarian by training, having studied at the Universidad de Caldas in Colombia and later obtained an MBA at the Universidad IQESI, also in Colombia. Welcome once more, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vincent. Well, I'm just going to use the last one slide to talk about how to consolidate the data, because we need to know that we need to consolidate the complete system data to make decision about the performance of the system, because the farm, the pig production farm is a complete system where there are many people involved in the performance or in the results of the farm. So after the two speakers before me, what I want to say is we need to consolidate all the data and combine with the financial data and then make decisions, because the goal of the farm is to make money. So if we don't have data, as Peter said, we cannot improve anything. So first we need data, then we need to consolidate the data and put the data available for the decision makers. That is the most important. But we need to know something I said in another webinar. There is a difference between data and information, because data is all the numbers we have stored in any system, and information is the data we use to make decisions. And for example, the data that I'm not going to use, but I take time recording or keeping that data. Sometimes it's a waste of time, because if I don't use it or I don't make decisions, I don't need that data. So what we need now is to have the complete data in one system to be available for all the person involved in the production. So we are talking about competitiveness and sustainable, and that is nothing but being profitable in a certain ambient or in a certain situation. And for being competitive, I need to know what is happening with feed prices, pig prices, and everything. And if I don't have the data, then I cannot make the decisions. And another thing is there is a difference between an information system and a database. The database gives you historical information. It's like an autopsy and inform about the situation, but the body death is there. The information system is the system that lets you anticipate to what is happening. Let's see an example. If the feed is going down, or the prices of feed is going down or going up, or pig prices are going down or going up, then I need the data from the barns to see what is happening in my barns about feed conversion, daily gain, energy usage of in the pigs. And then I need to make decisions with my feed company or my nutritionist to see what we are going to do. Are we going to concentrate the diet, or maybe not, or I need to anticipate the peaks to the market? So there are many things that I have to measure to make those decisions, and the financial advisors or the accounting people in the company needs to know what is happening in this production system to make the decisions. So as a conclusion, we need more technology in these days, because day by day, the margin in brick production are shorter. It's very difficult to make money with pigs because there are many things that we cannot manage. So we need to use more data for making better decisions and involve more people in our production to keep competitive or profitable in the current situation. That is my summary about what is our vision as AgroVision, that how can we use the data and how we need to manage the data for improve our results and for the complete performance of the system.
Very much, Francisco. And for you also a question. I mean, Peter already said that we are based here in the Netherlands. Can you explain the importance of sustainability in Latin America?
Yes, sustainability looks like to accomplish the trends sometimes in the industry, in the global industry. But to be sustainable is to keep profitable in the situation that the external parties put it for your farm. Mm-hmm. For example, the global market, I forget the welfare situation around the world. So we will need to accomplish those requirements to produce, and then we need to be profitable in those situations. We will need to invest a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we think that we will never be affected for what happened around the world, but day by day, it's more global, the market, and if we want to grow in our production, we will need to accomplish those requirements.
Yeah, not close your eyes to what the rest of the world is happening there. Thank you for your presentation. I would like to open up a roundtable discussion with the three of you, and kindly break in or help me if you have any more relevant questions than I have to ask. Please, we're doing this together. To start with, I've seen 3 presentations now with a lot of data. I could imagine that you're meeting a lot of farms that said, yeah, it's all very nice what you present here, but I have animals, let me farm. Don't bother me with all these data, they dazzle me. What do you tell these producers?
Well, okay. Thank you for the question. Very good question. No, it's indeed true. I mean, if you collect a lot of data, you also make you make it a little bit cloudy sometimes, and you can drown in a lot of data. Mm. So what we try to do, and we try to make it as compact as possible. So we already talked about setting up algorithms, calculating the algorithm, getting into knowledge, and then only presenting the knowledge. I mean, the data, the zeros and ones that we actually collect behind it are not that interesting for most farmers, for about 90% of farmers. Some farmers still want that, but most of the farmers don't want that. So we try to compact it and make it more user-friendly into dashboarding and smart system that actually can lead into quick decision-making for farms.
Mm-hmm. Peter?
Yeah, it's a really good one, because we get that question every time we implement our system. So it's a very fair, valid question. Data by itself doesn't mean anything also for the farmer. One is the most important, and I think Arjan said it also pretty wise. You need to be engaging in the way you do it. So they need to have an instant result of the actions that they're doing. So if you input data, you immediately see the added value of what you're doing, and you know when I've done it at this point, I leave the barn and my work is done. That's a big motivator for people to do it. But you need you need to go through this hurdle. And just the only way to do is the systems that are the easiest to use are the ones who are the most successful.
Francisco.
I think, in addition to Peter and Arjan, I think we need new KPIs for analyzing the farms, because we are focused in the farms, and I think it's a trend around the world looking for new KPIs, more to measure the performance of the system, and including day by day more economic results, because sometimes, for example, it's different. A farm that is completely depreciated and a farm that a new farm. So you can accept some results in one farm and maybe in another not. So I think in the industry we need to work more on new performance KPIs, more than just technical KPIs, because, for example, daily gain in one farm could be good, but in another could be not enough, and maybe capacity or feed conversion. There are many things that we need to measure in a different way to consolidate more data and make better decisions for the farmer.
So keep on developing the ideas, and I think what you say as well is a good idea, that if the hurdle is not too big, that producers don't need to kind of go to college again to understand the system. That will definitely help them to make the step.
And maybe I can say one more thing. That's what we've seen has been very successful in implementing this, is if you input it once and you can use it multiple times. So let's say in our system you register an insemination of a sow. If we send that information directly to the NEDAP system, you don't have to input anything in that system. It is already shared with them. That makes life a lot easier for people if they have a single point of entry, and without the entire process, every data point is being shared. That really helps to motivate people to use something.
That was one of the things, now you mention it. I mean, if a producer is watching this and says, I want it all, how good can these three systems work together? Are they fully compatible with each other?
It's absolutely a good question. The compatibility design means what it is that you want to do with it. I think the integration layers of the systems that we have are so well evolved and so well connected that you would see a continuous flow of information throughout all these systems. That is no problem at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, we're still working on some connecting points as of today, and there will always be in development. But the connection as it is will really help farmers today, to better their performance.
Yeah.
Right away.
We know more, we learn more, so we connect more. But it's a continuous process.
Yeah. And also what Francisco mentioned, if we have different KPIs, we have to collect different data points, maybe. So then we go look into other types of connections possible, maybe, and then we set it up. But it's still a process. But today you can already see a lot of data in your systems, and you can use it already to better your performance.
I see. I had a question about I think you mentioned about the pork sensors. I think that's for finishers, right?
Yeah, correct.
The lightweight ones go to the left. The heavyweight ones go to the right. What do you do when an average animal enters the system?
No, that's an average animal. There's always we collect the data, the weight of the entire herd, and then we say, okay, this is the average, and they will always be selected, slightly over or slightly under, indeed. So they will always go left or right, indeed. Yeah.
No, I can imagine. You give them either a high protein or a low protein diet. How is that formulated? Could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, well, this is what we recommend. Of course, this duration, of course, is determined by the farmer or by the feeding company, and you can switch it over in later stadiums as well. So what you see in normal finisher barns as well, they start with a weaned feed and then go to a grower feed and to a finisher feed, and that's the rationing you still want to. But now you can actually select from each individual pig the body weight and what kind of feed type you want assigned to him or her.
Yeah.
So you can monitor more in depth.
And in practice, an animal could be one day being sent to the left and the other day to the right, and
indeed,
never be either left or right in the system that's going.
That's true. Yeah, if you switch it over at some point, it's cool.
Okay,
It's true.
Francisco, a question for you. Well, we're talking a lot about data. Who owns the data in your system? Who is the owner of it? Is that still with the farmer, or is that with you? Or
No, the owner is the farmer,
Mhm.
and the farmer decide who want he share with. It's the permission is in the rights of the farmer. No, it's we don't use the data. We just keep the data and bring the software to manage and to analyze the data.
I'm looking at the gentleman here at the table. Is that similar for your systems?
Yeah, I think we share the same philosophy behind that. It is data ownership. We say the person who owns the animal owns the data he collects on that animal and the time he has that ownership. That's how it's legally being formed. What we do say is, beside the fact of the ownership, if you just own your own data and you have no access to other data, the value is very little. So we do motivate people to share data. But ownership is very strict, and if you want to share it, it's something that you, as a user, choose to do, and you choose to share it to a certain person. But its ownership is very strict. It's absolutely not ours. It's absolutely not ours.
Yeah. And would the same be applied to Argentina? Because you say it's legally, it's the farmers, but well.
Yeah, right now there's no. I think in the essence, it's that law also applies in Argentina, and still we do not want to claim ownership because it is simply not our animal.
Fair enough. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we completely agree on that. The data, the owner of the animal is also the owner of the data. I want to emphasize on what Peter just said about if you connect with larger systems, of course you can see more differences and have better in-depth view of your performance. We of course still have some farmers who prefer to have the systems offline. That can still be an option for NIDA, but then you establish the data to such a small data pool that your actual performance will be hard to determine. So we always encourage people to connect with as much systems as possible, compare the data,
and benchmark.
And then work on the data more in depth.
Okay. Data are already important. They are likely to become even more important in the future. Could you explain how important they are going to be in the future, and that it is definitely an investment that is worth for the years to come?
Data is going to be the main leading thing for farmers to determine their performance on, and to select the animals they want to breed with, select the type of feed that they want to work with, and even maybe employment in the future will be solely connected to the data they collect and measure. I can give the example always. At home, we maybe some of you also had the smart electrical meter, and they simply monitor your energy consumption of your home. And if you see this, you think, oh wow, I used the oven that time, or the washing machine. Maybe I want to buy a washing machine that's more energy efficient at some point. That's the same thing that we do with our system. If you can monitor your data, if you can monitor your performance, your feed consumption, your maybe even energy consumption, you will start to think more about, hey, I need to change something because this is not what my goals are.
Fully in agreement. I think in the future we go even a step further and said providing data with your product will be your license to produce. We are not there yet everywhere, but there's a lot of countries right now that use our system where that's actually the case. I always make the analogy with if you buy a second-hand car, the same car, same brand, same color, same mileage, same everything, which car would be worth more? The one with full history inside, so you know everything what happened to that car, or the car you know nothing about, which could be way less. You have no idea, but people want to know certainties. because that's where they can trust, they can calculate with. That is going to be also within our industry. It's just a matter of time when that's going to be the case.
Yeah. Francisco, how
Yes,
do you?
It's very important to improve the data collection because, for example, you cannot improve an average or a percentage. You need to focus on variations. And in the slides of Arjen, you see the difference in one barn. So if you don't see the difference, you only focus on the average to formulate the feed or the decision for selling, you cannot improve as fast as if you can measure and see the variations. So day by day, if you want to be profitable, you need to you need to be very precise in your decisions, and you need the data, individual data, for sure.
Yeah, so we have a precision, a license to produce, and even the sustainability is all reasons that data will become more important in the future. Well, since the theme of this webinar was also to link data to sustainability, I'd like to round off by inviting all three of you to say in a few sentences which message you would like the audience to remember how your systems tie in with sustainability. And I'd like to start with Peter.
For me, sustainability can be a lot of things. One is determine what sustainability means for you, determine KPIs that support that sustainability wish, and monitor those. That's the only things you can do. And I think the three of us are more than equipped to deliver those KPIs. We cannot determine for you what's important for you. So that's something you need to think about yourself.
Producer needs to know what he's aiming for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Harjan?
Yeah, sustainable always means, in my opinion and opinion of NEDAP as well, I think to keep on going and keep on going for a long time. And if you want to keep on going for a long time, you need to determine where your performance will be highest, but also where it will be lowest. And you need to scrape off those things that are above or below average, and you need to monitor that and to manage your herd according to that. And therefore, we provide systems that help you to collect all your performance data, your KPIs that you want, and then you can select what works for you and what not. And that's basically how I summarize this.
Thank you very much. Francisco, you get the honor to kind of have the famous last words this webinar.
Yeah, okay. Well, my message is, if you want to be or to have a sustainable business for the future, you need to use an information system that consolidates the data, not use, as we are doing today, silos of information. You keep your financial data in one side, technical data in another, sometimes the finishing information in just spreadsheets or something like that, everything separated. If you want to improve the performance of the system, you need to consolidate all the information from the system and then make your own KPIs and make your own decisions with good data. That is the most important thing.
Thank you very much. And as I like your comment here as well, that sustainability is all about making sure you can continue, because it's not only about that environment keeps on going or animal welfare, but also as the farm itself, you need to be economically sustainable as well. All these things will drive your decision what to focus on and how to move on in the future. Right, with that, I think I draw this webinar to an end. If you liked this webinar and you would like to see it again, or if you would like to see any of the 5 previous episodes, you can find them all at gitaporcino.com, or you go to YouTube and search for Gita Porcino. There you will find them as well. I hope this has all been informative. I thank you for watching. I thank my panel here, as well as Francisco at a distance, for their excellent contributions. And I thank you for being with us. Muchas gracias y hasta luego.